People come to me when they're ready for something more. And that more can come in the form of depth of experience and becoming more of themselves. So it can be deep identity work and an identity transformation, but it could also be significant transition that they're either choosing or not in their material lives. So it could be that they're going.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Camilia Berrada. She is a shamanic mentor to leaders, visionary entrepreneur, and founder of Loft Movement. Camilia blends the world of business and spirit, helping executives, entrepreneurs, and impact investors to achieve generational wealth and exponential growth, all without personal sacrifice, damaged relationships, or burnout. With over 9 years of experience guiding more than 950 global leaders and a background at Deloitte London, Camilia's work awakens leaders to deep inner freedom, master of energy, and conscious leadership. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Camilia.
Thank you for having me, Rexhen.
It's a pleasure for me. So I want to know how this got started. So what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
That's a great question. I was always obsessed with human beings and particularly aspects of reality, what made things true. I was moth to flame when it came to truth, and so I played a lot with that. When I was a kid, all of us have had like some innocent stories where we may have created a lie and seen the energetic impact of that and broken some rules. And for me, becoming a coach really has become a byproduct of who I am. It's not actually separate from my identity as a person. It's just become a vehicle where I can serve people in a more efficient way. But I was doing it all along. I was doing it when I was at school. I was doing it when I spent 7 years at Deloitte in London in a corporate role. And so it's just the label, the cover that I use for doing truth work.
And it's been a while since you've been doing this. What is that? What part of your coaching journey would you find the most rewarding since you started your coaching business?
The most rewarding moments come when you make real contact with another human being. So there's so much, we live in a world. I'm in London right now. I hadn't been back to London in a year. I used to live here. I lived here for 11 years. And I'm noticing so much. Now I live on an island. I'm noticing the intensity of the city, the busyness. Everybody's like in a rush to get nowhere. There's like everybody's on their phones. That's the first thing I told my loved ones. I'd landed and it's like I don't use my phone outside of my house where I live in Tulum. Whenever I call my parents, I'm at home, right? And it's like in London, everyone's constantly on their phones when they're out. And there's such normality we've created for people to be around each other and to appear busy and to appear important and to appear like they're attending to things. But in truth, they're disconnected from this really magnetic frequency and from how we're actually feeling and from the impeccable tracking of energy. And so for me, the most rewarding moments are when I'm in those states with a client, with another person, and we get to exist and experience life and co-create from that space together. And sometimes it's like things that land and it's levels of healing that that person maybe has been carrying for so long, and the way they see it shifts. But sometimes it's like purposeless. Sometimes it's just joy and the fun of being so present. Literally nothing else matters. And I really feel in many ways that's the purpose of our lives, right? The purpose of our lives is our souls came here to experience the richest possible set of experiences we have, and we spend so much time looking the other way. So when we're able to meet that and be in that, it feels like magic.
How does the program, I believe you have a program for your coaching services. How does that work? And like, first of all, before we dive into that, you are working with leaders. Is there a specific industry or group of or demographic, or maybe they have a certain goal that they're trying to achieve that they fall into generally when they're working with you?
Yes, I would say people come to me when they're ready for something more. And that more can come in the form of depth of experience and becoming more of themselves. So it can be deep identity work and an identity transformation, but it could also be significant transition that they're either choosing or not in their material lives. So it could be that they're going for a really senior position of a really global company. It could be that they have a new vision and a new executive team. It could be that they're leaving corporate entirely and they're looking to take on the entrepreneurial identity and start a completely new business in a different industry with a different set of rules and a different set of blueprint and a different map than what they're used to. It could be that they're looking to get divorced amicably and they don't know how to handle it and they've got nobody to talk to. So some significant change where what I would say all those different kind of profiles have in common is they want to do it in an aligned way. They want to do it truthfully, not in the way they've been told or in the way they've been programmed, but in the way that feels right in their spirits and in their bodies.
And for someone to generally be working with you, going back to that program, is there a certain set of like, is the program of a certain length that they would work with you?
Yeah, so there's many different ways to work with me. I have a whole ladder suite of offerings. I have corporate packages that start at £100,000 that essentially include annual private coaching with the chief executive or equivalent, quarterly executive team workshops and offsites for the team, and an annual retreat of some kind that could be professional or personal. And I often work at the intersection of the two. I have a private coaching practice where I'm extremely selective with the people I work with one on one. And the options for those are 6 months to a year. But I frequently, like, I have many clients who've been there on more than 1 year. So they can renew as alumni and continue with support and coaching. I have a client that's been with me 4 years, and then sometimes he'll take a 3 months break and then resume to go out onto the field and apply and integrate. So I would say a smallish private coaching practice. And then we're actually growing the other side of the business. There's a Mastermind, which is a group coaching program that I have. And the minimum for that is also 6 months. People usually join for 6 to 12 months, often stay. And then there's a whole suite of courses that you can buy to support you and almost doing it yourself. And you're receiving the content and beginning to apply some of these ancient techniques to create modern results, and also a membership. And the membership is much more dip your toe in the water. It's more accessible, it's more affordable, it's on a monthly basis. You don't have to commit to a year upfront. So there's a whole range for different people at different levels.
There's a lot of programs. So, where do people generally find you, or where do you find people in terms of like marketing? What is working well for you right now?
Sure. Initially, when I started my business, I was my business. So people would find me everywhere. They'd find me in coffee shops, they'd find me at events, they'd find me on the beach. they'd find me on planes. Like I would literally create clients wherever I went from existing in the world. And for a while, my business was word of mouth and referral. And, the first few months when I left Deloitte, we grew the business to multi six figures. Just with my private coaching practice, we only had one-on-one coaching at the time. It was just me doing this thing. And it continued that way. But what happened is I became nomadic. So I left London for what I thought was going to be 3 months. I went to the US for a couple of events, and 3 months turned into 6 months, turned into two years before I moved to Mexico in December. And I made a decision to build an online brand because I wanted to be able to put my phone on airplane mode, and I would do these really deep medicine journeys and retreats where I wanted to be offline, but I also wanted to build in some kind of predictability in the business, and I wanted to support people beyond my immediate client base. And I also realized there was a lot of education and a lot of resources that would benefit a greater range of people to begin speaking about this body of work a little bit more. And so we mostly, I would say, our primary platform at the moment is LinkedIn. And we've doubled down on that. But I am active on Instagram. I guest on podcasts. And honestly, we get so many clients that come from completely random places outside of our systems, right? Just out of alignment, right place, right time. Yeah, that just always keeps humbling me, and really is a symbol of this partnership with the unknown. There's no system through the cracks, and that's like probably the best system.
I agree. And you also mentioned LinkedIn being a big part of it. And I do see that you are also constantly posting on LinkedIn. What is the strategy that you're currently utilizing for LinkedIn right now in terms of marketing?
So initially, I was terrified of putting myself out there, and there was such an edge, and I had to just work that muscle, and I did, because there was all the normal human fears of what are the people that know me are going to think, right? What are the people who, what if I fail and I'm developing this brand? What are they, right? So you have to like develop certain capacity to overcome that, and you do, and I did that. So at first, there was no strategy. It was just entrepreneurship will do this thing where it'll show you all your blind spots and hand deliver them for breakfast. And it's one of the reasons I love being an entrepreneur, because it's like a constant growth journey. As we started to become more strategic with it, I've been on a journey of really trying to understand and refine how is it that you speak of the invisible world, right? Because so much of what I do is pretty one, difficult to grasp, and two, really broad depending on who we're helping. So it's like, well, I could help anybody with their lives as long as they would like to live a better life, right? But then I would do it very differently depending on what their very personal circumstances are. So how do you broadcast a message? It's so easy to do on a one-on-one conversation or in a coaching session, but when you're building a brand, it's a little bit different. And so I've been on a journey of learning from that, and really, I'm still on that journey. I think we're close. I think we're getting so much traction. There's a level of recognition. People appreciate that there's a ton of value, but I'm not sure we have nailed yet. And there's many exciting things coming up in the next few months where I think we will. I can't believe I just said that. I think we will nail it this year. Because, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to reveal it all. But I'm excited about that. And I just know there's an edge there. And it's a little bit daunting, because one of the things that I've learned is the topics I speak of, they're pretty taboo, right? I speak of sexuality, I speak of spirituality, I speak of wealth, right? These are things we're told not to bring up at dinner. Like it's like, what do you not share? And it's like suddenly I'm like being public about it and going really deep in different kinds of ways. And a lot of the truths that I hold and the paradigm that the frames that I use will really blow some people's minds completely in terms of the way they're currently operating. Not that they can't handle it, but it would really break the way they're currently living. So, in that sense, it makes my content quite provocative, right? And so there's a particular edge in how we need to use that deliberately to support people on their journey, and make sure it's of service. So I'm really in the middle of all of that right now.
And you also did mention you speak sometimes and you say we. So is there a team structure behind as well?
Yes, very lean team structure, which over the last 18 months, as you know, you mentioned there's like quite a few offers. We spent time really developing a suite of programs so we could help anybody, because I only had high ticket before. Like you could only work with me for something that ranged between 10 and 100,000 pounds, which meant that some people wouldn't join, or it was only a certain kind of person that would join. And I got a really clear download to make this more accessible. I wanted to do that. And so really, as we've expanded our suite of offers, I like to do things for the very, very long term, right? And so the team that I have, I feel we could, at this point, we've like put the house in order. We could scale to 20 million a year and not change our team structure the way it currently stands. And really, it's a handful of contractors. It's not complicated. We can really handle. For me, the most important piece around scaling, for a long time I didn't want to scale because it's all about staying in truth, and I didn't believe it was possible to scale without losing the depth. And so I became obsessed with that, and I feel like I found a way. So now we're growing, but it's not volume for volume's sake. It's really the service of the quality of the transformation. And we will make whatever changes we need to stay true to that.
And currently, the coaching part, it's only being delivered by you right now, right?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So the rest of the team structure is mostly helping you with any admin stuff or sales or anything like that?
Yeah. So our team is made up of operations, marketing, advisory. Really, where if you look at the finances, the greatest chunk of money goes in my own development. So the greatest chunk of money goes into my mentors, my energy work, my retreats. That's where we most of the resources um, go in mastery of the craft itself.
Do you often do retreats with the groups that are coaching?
Do I host them or do I participate in
Do
them,
you
or both?
host them?
I have only hosted one retreat in Hawaii. Yeah. But there's been big requests for more, and I'm sure there's going to be a second one coming up soon, but it's more of an occasional thing at this point.
Ah, okay. So it's not where the focus is mostly. I
No,
see. Cool. Awesome. So, obviously, we did talk about scaling. And when you look into the future, apart from scaling, what is like uh, the short to medium term goals for the next 1 to 3 years?
I don't have that.
Okay. So,
I follow energy. Let me tell you why. I don't have goals because goals are a very left brain word that come from our cognitive mind. And if I set a goal, let's say I want to make 5 million pounds in the next 12 months or whatever, or 10 million pounds in the next 3 years, or whatever arbitrary number, right? We got to. By setting a goal, I would be limiting myself to that being the cap. And my experience has been, when I just chop wood and carry water and show up, right? Like if you were to ask me right now, where are we at? Well, we're hovering at the 6-figure month mark, and it would be good to stabilize there, but we're nowhere near stable. It's up, down, up, down, up, down. But even if I like leave the money inside, really, like for me, we're the best kept secret on the internet. It's like I'd be more interested in saying, like, turning Conscious, which is my mastermind group coaching program, into a place where leaders from all over the world, different countries, different industries, can tap in at any moment and feel like they're understood, they're not alone. They're in a community where they can be supported. They get inspired. They can be more of themselves and bring all of their power in a way that they don't even have with their closest friends, right? They can heal. They can talk about their love lives and money and their business growth and their professional challenges all in the same room. And they can just have it all and do it all together, and then really develop spiritually and develop their capacity and their understanding of what it means to be human at a very profound level. Like, so that would be my vision. But I don't feel like there's a time attached to that. And I feel like when I get so in my head about it, there's an attachment that gets created about the number or that being all that's possible. And my experience is what's possible is miraculous when that's the frequency you're a match for. And so I don't bother myself with the how. I do my job.
Interesting. So you would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would say that, let's say you set a goal for a certain number, X number, it doesn't matter. If
Yeah.
you set that as a goal, you feel like in your subconscious, you would be prepared for that goal and nothing above that.
Yes.
I see. Okay, cool. That makes sense. And
You would organize around achieving that, and you'd leave everything else out on the table. And the unknown is where it's at. So it's much more interesting to partner with the unknown and have a direction and keep checking in and refining that, rather than to set it and then it's like, okay, that's where we're going. It's like, I don't know where we're going. The sky's not even the limit.
I love that. I love that. And you did mention also investments. You mentioned a lot of investments, especially in yourself. What would you say have been some very good investments that have helped the business grow? And by grow, I mean it doesn't have to be just revenue, but just grow in general.
What do you mean grow in general if it's not
So,
revenue?
like, even like think about even growing the team and like obviously revenue and that would correlate, but like in terms of like an investment that actually had a high return on that.
So for me, the highest return is the level of transformation and service I can provide clients, right? So it's like, how much better can their lives become? How much more aligned and successful can their businesses become? How healed are they? How free are they? Like, how much better is the identity shift that they go through before and after they work with our business? And by far, the highest return on investment has been my capacity, my be in truth, my capacity to hold my stuff, my capacity to detach from my own human problems so I could get out of the way, not make it so much about me and my ego and my desires, and actually be of service and be in my full expression and be able to exist and spend more time in my life in the state of flow.
Do you feel right now that you are at capacity or below capacity?
In terms of my,
Time.
oh, I
You
mean
said
capacity
capacity,
in
you
terms
didn't
of,
mean time, right? Okay.
yeah, so in terms of time, I got loads of time. And time's not even real. When I talk about capacity, I mean our nervous systems and our spirit's ability to hold uncertainty, discomfort, and be with risk, right? So capacity is like, people come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like burning out. It's too much. It's too stressful. These problems, this responsibility, this pressure. It's like a cup that is overflowing with water, right? And it's like growing your capacity is taking all the water that's overflowing, no matter how good you become, water's coming in at a higher rate, right? So you're over capacity. You need capacity to be able to hold all the water. There's no way about it. It doesn't matter how good you become. So what we do is we pour the water from the cup into a bathtub. And then suddenly, in the bathtub, even a full cup, there's almost no water, right? There's almost no water, but then it's really scary. So I find a lot of people want to stay feeling like they're sinking, but being the cup, because at least they're under the illusion of control there. They feel like they're important, they feel like they've got it, but they know it's not true. They know there's so much more. But being in the bathtub would mean having to go back to a beginner's mind. It would mean letting go of all their tools that made them successful up to this point. It would mean being with things and not knowing anything about them. And that's so deeply uncomfortable. So growing the capacity is growing the safety and the muscles to make the bathtub safe. And then one day you do it and you get better at it and you hold it and the bathtub's overflowing. And then you take the bathtub, you throw it in the pool. And then it's like, holy shit, I thought I was wise. I know nothing. How do I hold that? And so really I'll give you a practical example in my own life, right? I just got off a call with someone who is supporting me with marketing, right? And he made a very good point on the call. And he said, we need to get you to stop talking around things and talking to people. Because people love your stuff. They all love it, but no one feels like it's exactly for them. So we got to just go straight at. But until last Friday, I did not have the capacity to do that because I had all this shame that was completely unrelated to business, that had to do with an event in my life when I was 6, and then that developed into a pattern, and I did it again as an adult, once with my sister, then with my business partner, all years ago. Things that are like not even a trigger or traumatic in any way consciously, but because of how I behaved, and I wasn't proud of how I behaved, and I distorted and disconnected from that truth, and I lied to myself about it to make myself look clean and better and look good, right? There was this like covered up shame underneath going like this. And that meant that even in my communication, right, I was going around, but I didn't have the capacity to be with that level of shame because I had to be sure that I was a good person. Like my ego and my construct was too attached. And so it took a minute for my unconscious mind to hand that and be like, okay, this is the level to clear right now. And I felt it and it was painful. And I felt the loss, right? Of how much better certain relationships in my life could have been had I not made those decisions and not acted the way I did. And also total acceptance and peace that I did the best I could with good intentions in the way that I could. I just couldn't see it then, right? But really honored that and led that through. And now it's no longer a problem,
I
right?
see. So trying to understand that a little bit, I understand the part that the marketing person mentioned, basically
Mhm.
being direct. When being direct, what is like you went around, you said, what does that mean? Going around meaning not even talking about like what you're offering, is that what you mean? Like how would you go around in your communication?
I would say vague specificity.
I see.
So when I was trying to bypass the hard feelings, I would just go around them to get to them. Whereas if I wasn't afraid to just feel the hard stuff, I'd just be able to go straight through.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
So this is, I have to tell, this is not an easy thing for me to comprehend. It is kind of complicated for me. I also wanted to talk to you about challenges, and I feel like this might be easier. So, in
Okay.
terms of challenges with your business right now, what would you
Yeah.
say is the next challenge you're trying to solve for?
I would say I have a choice to make about who we're going to hone in really serving at a more global level. So, to make it really simple, I can help really successful, wealthy people become a lot more happy and become a lot more awake and more enlightened and spiritually attuned and master energy and become energetically fluent and get so much more from this human life. They've got the money, they've got the success, and let's give them everything that that can't buy. I can also help people who are already awake and who already get this complicated, impossible to articulate things that I'm confusing you with in this very episode, right? World of energy, people who are way better than that at me, already there, right? But they're not necessarily that well integrated in the human realm, right? They're not necessarily successful. They're like starving artists in some ways, right? They don't really know how to sell, how to market, how to position themselves, how to talk about any of it. They don't have the bridge. So I could focus on that. And really where I've been is the leaders, but as I've become an entrepreneur, more and more connected people, have been finding me, and it's been a little bit different. And just as I'm saying this out loud, I'm realizing it's going to be a little bit of both, right? It's going to be those who are energetically attuned already and who are somewhat advanced and somewhat successful, but they have both of that predisposition. So I guess we have no challenges.
So, in easy words for me, you're trying to expand who you're offering your services to. Would that make sense?
Yes, we're trying to reach more people and serve more people and get more people to see that this work would really help them live extraordinary lives and do a lot of good for the world.
Thank you so much. This has been an interesting episode. Um, is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches, just like you, or even coaches that are working in different industries, who are trying to make a bigger impact, to scale their impact?
Everything is energy. Do it in energetic alignment. Invest in understanding how to track, how to hold, how to run, how to read energy, and make sure whatever you're doing, it feels completely aligned and you're involving your intuition. Otherwise, you'll be building something that doesn't feel like it's ever enough. And then you'll want to move on to the next thing, and then the next thing. Whereas if you're on the path, if you're on it, it'll always feel more than enough and like you've arrived, and everything else just gets to be bonus.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Camilia. And for anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can go into LinkedIn, Camilia Berrada. And apart from that, they'll also be able to find your email there. And the website is loftmovement.com. Is there any other way people could reach out to you if they needed to?
If you send us a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram, there's a free challenge, a Deep Inner Freedom Challenge. That's 5 days long that anybody could just download without speaking to anybody. And if anybody's interested in joining any of our programs, they can just send us a message and we will, depending on their personal circumstances, make the best recommendation for what would serve them best at this moment in time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today, Camilia. This was lovely.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.